I'm Janelle Stolten-Holtmeyer, Associate Editor of Modern Distribution Management, and today I'm talking with Roy Vallee, Executive Chairman at Avnet. Hi, Roy. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Janelle. How are you?
I'm doing well. So, in general, how's business been at Avnet?
Well, we finished our last fiscal year in June, just a couple of months ago. Sales for the year were down from the prior year, which was a record, by about 3%. So not dramatic, just down a little bit. And as we finished that quarter, we saw the year-over-year comps actually get a little bit weaker. So we're seeing business overall being a bit sluggish. Keep in mind that our typical organic secular growth rate is something in the 6 or 7% range. So flat to slightly down is sluggish conditions for us.
One of the big pieces of news that came out of Avnet this year is your retirement. So now that you're looking to get out of the business, what are your thoughts on the rest of 2012?
I think that the global economy is in a bit of a down cycle right now. There's a variety of issues. Domestically, it's an election year. We've got the well-publicized fiscal cliff. Europe, there are issues to deal with, which we've all read and heard about. China is slowing, and we could still use more stability in the Middle East. All things considered, I think the global economy is going through a bit of a down cycle, and I think the conditions that we've seen over the past 3 to 4 months are likely to continue through the end of the year. Now, I would add, on a long-term basis, I'm actually quite bullish on our business for 2 reasons. One is technology, the markets that we serve, tend to grow at 1.5 or 2 times the rate of GDP. So back to that 6 or 7% secular growth rate that I mentioned earlier. And then on top of that, distribution continues to gain traction and grow at least as fast, if not a little bit faster than the overall market. So I'm very bullish long-term, cautious in the short term.
You've been in the industry for a long time, and you've seen and been a part of many changes that have taken place in the industry. So if you had to pick one, what would you pick as the most significant change to the industry during your career?
That is a very hard question. And the reason is because there's been some pretty dramatic changes, things like industry consolidation, globalization. But if you pin me down and force me to pick one, I would say it's automation, and how automation has allowed us to do things like centralize inventories, better manage those inventories, communicate with our trading partners, both customers and suppliers, in a more efficient way, increase the productivity and efficiency of our own team. I'm hesitant to say it because I know I'm dating myself, Janelle, but I remember the first online transaction processing systems, the transition from literally manual records branch by branch to centralized automated information systems.
That must have been a very interesting thing to watch unfold.
Oh, yes. And as you might imagine, a few hiccups along the way. These systems are difficult to put in, and perhaps changing people's behaviors is even harder than changing the systems.
What do you see as your greatest achievement?
Well, I think if you asked analysts, suppliers, customers, maybe even employees, they would say that I introduced value-based management into the company. And this is a system by which you keep score based upon return on capital and not just revenues or even the margins on those revenues. You have to combine both the P&L and the balance sheet to really understand return on capital. But I would tell you that I think, although much more difficult to measure, the thing I think I feel best about is the changes to our culture. So we describe the culture at Avnet as a values and performance-based culture of excellence. And my perception is that we have some highly engaged employees, and we have some evidence to support that. And I believe, based on a lot of anecdotal evidence, that people want to work with and work for our company. So I'm very proud of what's happened with our culture. It's a big company with a lot of great people and a lot of good things going on.
What's next for Roy Vallee?
Well, for me personally, 35 years with Avnet, 13 years as CEO, 14 years as chairman, and I just turned 60 years old. I think that too much turnover at the CEO level is not good, but I also think too little turnover is not good. So I think this is the right time for me to transition out of the company. It's not my intent, though, to stop working, but it is my intent to slow down a bit. One way to express that would be I'd like to work more from the shoulders up going forward, and maybe a little bit less air miles and jet lag to deal with from the shoulders down. I am already on 2 publicly traded boards, and I'm on the advisory council for the 12th District of the Federal Reserve Bank. And I've been getting involved with 3 or 4 private companies, most of them in the venture area, and I would like to have some involvement also in the private equity space. So I'm looking for projects and not a job.
That's slowing down?
It feels like slowing down to me, yes, because, as CEO of a large global company, you're on call 24/7. There's lots of travel, and sometimes the schedule just sort of ran me instead of me running the schedule. I feel much more in control these days, and in no case am I personally responsible for the financial results of the company.
What would you say are the 3 things that should keep managers and executives awake at night right now?
Because of this sluggish overall environment, I think the top issue is growth, and more specifically, profitable growth, which requires innovation. It requires risk-taking and doing something different to expand or change the market that you serve. So that's got to be number 1. Number 2, I would categorize as the people issues, although the words may vary slightly. Most all of us need to be paying attention to how to attract, develop, engage, and reward our teams, and develop our own cultures along the way. And I think in a sluggish environment, the people issues are important. And then the last one is resource allocation. The way I always thought about this at Avnet is that we really only have 2 resources to allocate, our people and our money. And in the context of this challenged environment, we're challenged to allocate those resources in the best way possible. And in some cases, that means reallocating resources that have been allocated to something else. Now, of course, these things are always issues, right? Growth, people, and resource allocation. But I think in the context of the current environment, they take on a different and more particular interest.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Roy, and good luck in all your other adventures.
Thanks, Danelle. It was a pleasure speaking with you.